So what I'm doing here is I'm going to go through every song that I still like from all the years that I've been writing songs. I had to get about a dozen really bad songs out of the way in college, so I wrote all those and forgot them. But I'm still going to be playing some stuff from those really early years of guitar playing. I started playing guitar and writing songs at the same time back in about 1974 after high school. My dad had an old Decca guitar, which was really cheap, and it had super high action. You had to press the strings about that far to reach the frets. And I got fascinated by the sound, just the pure sound of it. One night I was up late, past the whole family gone to bed, and I grabbed that guitar and I just played that low E string and sat and listened to it. And when you hear it fade into silence, you can hear all the components of the sound. It's not a simple thing, that sound. It's not one tone. It's all these frequencies. And I just got super fascinated by that. Decided to learn, found a Mel Bay chord book. Mel Bay wrote a bunch of instructional books for musicians long ago. And this had all these guitar chords in it, so I started learning those. But I didn't have a songbook. I didn't have any songs to tell me how to play given songs. So I had to start writing them. And the first song I ever wrote was with my sister. She and I were great friends as teenagers. And we did a lot of, a certain number of artistic collaborations, including endless Mad Libs. I think the famous word in the Mad Libs was curds. Everything was curds, all the nouns. And we wrote this song together. It's called Tree, and this is the first one that got everything going. I have to remember this simple picking pattern is very different from anything I play now. There was a man with hands of brown who came to town and settled down. And he said, tree, and there were trees all over town. There was a man who was so lean, he had to holler to be seen. And he said, tree, and all the trees were turning green. Then came a man who was so old that his years could not be told. And he said, tree, and all the trees bore fruit of gold. Then came a man who was so small, no more than 7 inches tall. And he said, tree, and all the trees began to fall. And then a man with smoky hair said that trees should not be there. And he said, tree, and there was concrete everywhere. And then a man with hands of brown came to town and settled down. And he said, tree, and there were trees all over town.
I've never heard that.
I don't expect you have. I think that's the second time I've ever played that in public, maybe, something like that. But it's.
Gary, are you going to record all this?
I am not recording the Zoom meeting, but I have a separate audio feed that's being recorded and another camera.
Oh.
So yes, all this stuff is going to cut out any personal parts and of you guys and put it on YouTube. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. So that started things off, and wrote, as I say, a bunch of terrible songs going forward. But somewhere along the next summer, I wrote another song that's still in my set list after all these years. Growing up, my family spent all of our vacations at the Oregon coast, on the central Oregon coast around Newport, Waldport, Yachats area. We had a particular motel that we stayed at, and it was the best of our family. We were perfect. There was none of the pressures of normal life were present, and we just sat around and read novels and cooked food and drank wine, which was a real treat for preteens, and it was great. So that was home for me. Later in college, I was asked to write an essay for an English class defining home, to write about home. And I wrote about a particular lava flow that goes out into the ocean off of Waldport, Oregon. And I used to go there and sit for hours and just hear the surf boom into the rock all by myself, and the spray and the rock just ringing like a bell. And that was home for me, and that's what I wrote about for that essay. So I wrote this song, Ocean Man. It was inspired by a free giveaway drink glass from Herfy's Burger Joint. It was about the Green Mountain Boys, which were a revolutionary band group. And I saw that phrase, Green Mountains, in this phrase, this melody. You say you love green mountains. It just started going through my head, and that turned into a love song for the ocean. So here's Ocean Man. Say you love green mountains, I am an ocean man. You say you love your city streets, well, I'm an ocean man. And I know those city streets, yeah, like the back of my hand. And I love your mountains also, but I'm an ocean man. I am an ocean man. Give me endless battles between the sea and land, between the waves and the pebbles in the sand, where it all began. You say you love your people, I am an ocean man. You say you need their company, well, I'm an ocean man. And I have my people also, I love to touch a hand and hear the laughter of a friend. But I'm an ocean man. I am an ocean man. Give me endless reaches where a man can stand alone upon the endless beaches in the sand, where it all began. You say you love your mountain mornings when the world is pink and white. You say you love those violet evenings and the crystal nights. Well, I've seen that mountain sunshine as it greets the land, and I've been known to stand in starshine, but I'm an ocean man. I am an ocean man. When the sky is storming and the blood-red clouds of anger reflect the sailor's warning in the sand where it all began. Ooh, ocean man. Ooh, ocean man. Yay. Yeah. My father was a singer all his life. He played a little guitar and a lot of ukulele, and but he never did write songs. And you know, music had been so important to me that when I started writing songs, he got really fascinated by that. In fact, just before he passed away, when my dad passed away, my sister came over to his house to see how he was doing the next day, and he was gone. And she found on his card table in the living room all the photos from his college barbershop quartet spread out on the table. So he had been spending his last night alive reminiscing about his days singing in college with those other three guys. It meant a lot to both of us to find that and see it there. Anyway, back in the summer between high school and college, I was writing some songs and showing them to him. He said, I don't understand how one would go about writing a song. I've never had the slightest idea what it would take to write a song. Could you write a song right now if you wanted to? And I said, sure, Dad, give it a try. And I had been working on alternating bass and finger picking, which is a really basic guitar style. I'll talk a little bit more about it later on another song. And so I just picked the guitar up and started playing the first thing that came to my fingers, and it was this. And that's all there was at that time. I didn't have any words, but I had been reading a lot of science fiction, still do, and I read a story by Ray Bradbury, which is called Kaleidoscope. It's about a group of astronauts orbiting the Earth, and their spaceship blows up, and they're left stranded, but they have plenty of time to contemplate the Earth, and they're on the radio with each other, and they talk about death and life and what's important, and it's a really beautiful story. I highly recommend it. Ray Bradbury, Kaleidoscope, a really powerful story. And that inspired the words of this song. It's called Lifeline. It was then my best song for at least 10 years. I wrote another one called Flying Dream later that I kind of became what I considered to be my signature song. But for between Lifeline and Flying Dream, this was my signature song. I made an LP in 1985, which I'll bring into the studio sometime and show you all. I did the cover art with an astronaut floating in space, and that was a pretty exciting time making that vinyl record. And the record's called Lifeline. It's available on Spotify. And here's the song Lifeline. Houston. Come in, Houston. Do you read me? This is Garrett. Yeah, you're going to have to turn the gain all the way up on your your receiver. My shuttle door has closed somehow, and it's severed my lifeline. I'm detached from the craft, and I'm broadcasting from my suit transmitter. Yeah, I'm about 20 meters ahead of the shuttle in orbit, and I'm drifting away pretty quickly. Now the gun's out of fuel. I think I've got about 2 hours of air left in my suit. I'm just gonna turn you off and look at things for a while. It sure is beautiful up here. See if you can find my wife, okay? Body floating free, I see through crystal eyes. None in all humanity has ever felt so wise. Beauty above and below me. Why must this happen so slowly? Green hills are calling me home. The voice of earth is calling, please come home. My line of life is useless now. It reaches for the sky. Helpless we come to this world, and helpless we die. Beauty above and below me. Why must this happen so slowly? Green hills are calling me home. The voice of earth is calling, please come home. My gauges glow, they're telling me my time is running low. I have no fear of death, but God, I hate to go. There's beauty above and below me. Why must this happen so slowly? Green hills are calling me home. The voice of earth is calling, please come home. Mother Earth, I'm coming home. It will not happen soon. For the next 10,000 years I'll be another moon. The universe will slow me down. I know how strong you draw. And maybe in 10,000 years I'll be a shooting star. Beauty above and below me. Why must this happen so slowly? voice of earth is calling. Please come home. Please come home.
One. I like that one. That one has aged well.
Great.
I like it.
Do you still know a woman named Nora? Somebody?
Nora in Memphis?
No, it was in the
Nora.
Northwest from, like the
Nora
80s.
Anderson.
Yeah. Do you still know how to get hold of her?
Yeah, Nora Anderson.
Yeah?
Passed away.
She passed away. I'm sorry.
At the beginning of COVID.
Wow.
I'm still very close with her youngest son.
I'll be darned.
He and I talk.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, her husband had passed away years before.
Uh-huh.
And he was in the graveyard in Coopville.
Oh.
Incredible view. Incredible view.
I know the
And I
best.
used to sit up there and talk to him and watch the view. Well, now she's up there, so I go up and sit with them both. And,
Oh, my God.
and yeah.
Now, I will come. I would like to go to her grave and sing that song. With you. One of the great regrets of my life was I was visiting you on Whidbey Island, and there was a softball game going on, and I was really into the softball game. Nora was at the game. I was playing, and she asked me to play Lifeline for her. And I said, oh, gosh, I'd love to, but, I'm too into playing first base right now. And so then I never saw her again. The fact that I
She
didn't.
was one of my best friends.
Yeah, cool. Wow. Huh. Well, next time you see her, let her know that I miss her and wish I'd played Lifeline for her back then, and maybe you and I'll sing it for her.
Yeah, we will go there.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds awesome.
I buried a couple of cookies with her.
Oh.
I had made, because she lived in front of me and her kids, and I'd known her son since he was 4 years old, and the rest of her kids. And I go down and I make these cookies, and they just grow. I mean, the back of it, because it was one of those things you just add everything.
Uh-huh.
And I can remember this one time, for like a week, anytime you saw anybody in the family or meeting or the complex, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had pockets full of these cookies. So the night before we had the celebration of life and placed her, in Coopville, I made the cookies. And I brought a whole bunch with me and we buried some with her.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's very Tutankhamun or something, What do you want to have with you in the afterlife? And Barbara's
Maybe
cookies.
some Irish whiskey. I can't remember.
Maybe both. They would go together pretty well.
Oh yeah. Okay, I'm muting.
Okay, bye. So one of the big influences on my guitar playing was a woman named Elizabeth Cotton, and I highly recommend looking her up. She was an amazing blues player, maybe the 1920s, somewhere in that general zone. And Elizabeth Cotton had this extraordinarily simple guitar style, but it was still really powerful. She only played with 2 fingers. A lot of current players, John Prine, sadly also passed away about the same time Nora did. John Prine only played with 2 fingers and in very much an Elizabeth Cotton type style. And what you do for that is you get an alternating bass going, a sort of insistent thing, and then you just play whatever you want. And it sounds a lot more complicated than it is. It's a really handy thing to know. So I was fascinated by Elizabeth Cotton, and so I decided to just write something fun to exercise that muscle of doing that. And it turned out to be a fun little bit of song that ended up on the second LP I did, which is just called Flying Dream. And it's called Erosion on the Palouse. It originally was called Western Dinner because it has kind of a Western sound to it, and I don't know where dinner came from. That's just something between me and the muse. And but it's anyway. I also then heard that the erosion rate in the Palouse country of eastern Washington was the highest in the world, and I figured there ought to be a song commemorating that. So here we go, Erosion on the Palouse. It's a funny thing about songwriting. When songs are like bookmarks in your life. If I hear a certain Elton John song or some piece of any other piece of music from some era of my life, it can just open up my life to that page, and all the senses and feelings come spilling out. It's a little like tastes and smells. Just a very strong effect of bringing back memories. And one of the great blessings of being a songwriter is that I've got this archive of bookmarks that they have even more power because I wrote them. So more of my own self is put into the artifact. And that one really brings back Seattle in the mid-'70s. Just one of my early days of being an adult, being out on my own, and I just get the same feelings. There's emotions that I couldn't possibly name. It's the feeling. It's like a flavor. So Erosion on the Palouse I had fun playing that. Let's see. I'm going to play one more song. Again, in my early 20s, I worked for a Seattle shoe store, and it was a beautiful job, except that I had to sell shoes. And I had to get on the bus every morning early and go down there. I think I made $100 a week. And that was pretty good. That was all right. You could live on $400 a month back then. And but there was something about the tension between having to do this thing for a living, working my first job ever, and couldn't just goof around or do the things I wanted to. I had to get on the bus, totally sleepy, and go to work and bring out handbags, like, hey, can I interest you in a matching handbag? That's so degrading. And there was one fellow there who would tell a customer anything to sell the shoe. If the shoe was too small, he'd tell them that it would stretch over time. And if the shoe was too big, he'd tell them that the sole would become more flexible and it would stop slipping around on their foot. He was just totally jaded and had no ethics whatsoever. It was a very degrading job. But I wrote this song while I was on the floor at that job, because there's something to be said for the tension between the pressures of life and the drive to make art. If I am working a job and just desperate that whole 8 hours to get to my songwriting or my painting or my sculpture, then I'm going to have a lot more energy that evening to dive in and do this thing. And I'm going to be motivated. And if I have all the time in the world to do my art, I might put it off. I might get lazy and start reading a book or browsing the internet. So yeah, anyway, just if you have a job and you wanna and you really want to go do your art and you feel like if you could just do your art full time, you'd be more productive, think very carefully about that, because it's possible that the job itself is driving you to make your art. Anyway, this song is called Amber, and I would be out there serving a customer, and I would think of another line, and I'd go in the back room, and I had a pad of paper back there, and I would write the one line on the thing, and then go back out there and show them the shoes and ask them if I could put some heel taps on them for them, and I'd go back and put the heel taps on and be writing in my notebook at that same time. I got so into that story that I've forgotten how to start the song. Ah, yes. She met him at the crest of a morning hill. The sky was gold and the air was warm and still. Her mind was drawn by the wonder of his eyes, pools of deepest amber, the color of the skies, and she was lost in the ocean of his eyes, lost in the ocean of his eyes. They stood and watched the fires of day arising in hammered gold above the green horizon, as amber light poured out upon the land and clothed the hill in honey. She reached and took his hand, and she was lost in the ocean of his touch, lost in the ocean of his touch. He spoke with her of things unknown to men. Shadows shortened, then grew long again. He talked with her of real and right and wrong, of cool and amber wisdom, until the light was gone, and she was lost in the ocean of his soul, lost in the ocean of his soul. Don't have to do much talking, 'cause baby, I realize there's a whole conversation in those golden eyes. The mother star hid behind its child. He looked at her through amber eyes and smiled. The fires of day became the fires of night, they crushed the grass together, bathed in amber light, and she was lost in the ocean of his love, lost in the ocean of his love.
Didn't you and Matthew used to play that together?
We did, and in fact, that run, that's Matthew.
That was my.
Yeah,
Oh, it is.
that's
I
Matthew's
love that.
idea. Yeah, it's really stood the test of time. Yeah, Matthew was my first real picking partner, and we were best friends for a long time. And yeah, I never really played guitar with anybody else in a collaborative way before I met him. And yeah.
You think it's for John and Paul all over again.
Yeah. The other thing in Ocean Man, this thing here. That's also his. He also contributed that to that song. So both of those songs have riffs that have made it into the actual arrangement. Yeah. I recommend the LP, the recording. When I did the Lifeline album, after all these years listening to it carefully, that's my favorite cut. I think it's the best recorded and the best performed, and really a beautiful recording. So if you feel like looking it up on Spotify, Amber from the Lifeline album is a really nice cut from my early.
Don't I have Lifeline?
Oh, I imagine you do. I certainly would have made sure that. Keep it. They're going for $60 to $80 online now. They're
I think I
rare.
have a couple of them.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, not that I recommend you sell it, but it's just an indication. It's one of the rarer albums in your collection, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Cool.
is.